Excuse me.
Okay, so I think everything is ready to go. I can still hear a couple of people buzzing in. But who do I have with me on the line right now?
This is Faye Rice from Magnetawan First Nation Public Library.
Okay, hi Faye.
Hi.
Leanne Andre Swanson from Mishpecotton First Nation Public Library.
Okay.
Evelyn Taco, Whitefish River First Nation Public Library.
Hi, Evelyn.
Morning. Afternoon, sorry.
And Christina, are you still there? Okay. I'm showing Christina in the webinar, but not on the phone with us. So I'm just going to try to get her hooked up.
Thank you.
Hello?
Hello.
Did someone just join the line with us?
Yes, I did. It's Christina.
Oh, hi, Christina.
Anton Troyer's on.
Hi, Anton. We have 4 others with us on the line.
Oh, great.
The recording and the presentation is all set to go. I'm just going to give a few more minutes. We have 4 others who are registered but haven't joined us yet.
Okay.
All right. Hello.
Hi.
Hi, who am I speaking with?
Cassandra Fox.
Hi, Cassandra. It's Andrea.
Hi.
Are you calling in from Wiki?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Sherry said that she was going to try to get you to call in, but she wasn't sure.
Yeah.
Perfect. We're just waiting for a few more people before we start, all right?
Alrighty.
Cassandra?
Yes?
So you're on the phone line with us, but I don't have you signed into the online webinar portion.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to do, and it just keeps on saying that, there's an error, service error. Okay. Did you by any chance run through the system compatibility check when you started? No, actually. Okay. So in the instructions that I had emailed, there's, at the very beginning when you sign into the webinar, there's a system compatibility check option on the website page, and that runs you through a check to make sure that your computer has all the components it needs to view the webinar. Where it says that on the Clarity Conference Inc. Yeah. Are you on the Clarity Conferencing website right now? Yes, I am. Okay. So I think it's in the bottom right-hand corner or left-hand corner. There's an option to conduct the system compatibility check. At the bottom of the login page. Oh, okay. So if you're on the Clarity Conferencing website and you click Web Conferencing on the left-hand side, yeah, and then click the Clarity Web Conferencing login link, yes, then on that page there should be an option there for system compatibility check. Yes. Okay. So when you do that, you can click the participant selection and then run through it, and it will let you know if your computer's missing anything. Oh, okay. And then let me know if you have any troubles with that. Okay. If we can't get you hooked up, you'll still be on the telephone with us, and then I can send you the webinar link after this being recorded. Okay. Okay. Smart Club meeting plugin. All right. Do I have anybody new on the line with me? Same one? Okay, we're going to get started. It is 2 o'clock, and I know that everyone does have a full presentation prepared for everyone, so we'll get started, and if anyone joins in the line along the way, that's fine. We'll just make sure that they put their phones on mute while Anton is conducting this presentation. So, today's webinar is Preserving Language in the Library, and our speaker today is Anton Troyer. And Anton is the Executive Director of the American Indian Resource Center at Bemidii State University. He's a renowned author. He has a BA from Princeton University, a master's and PhD from the University of Minnesota, and he's currently the editor of the Ojibwe Native Journal, which is the only academic journal of Ojibwe language. So Anton Troyer is very well practiced in this topic, and I know that he has a lot prepared for us today. I see Cliff has just joined us. Cliff, are you on the line? No, he's not on the line.
Yes, I am.
You are? Oh, hi, Cliff.
Hi.
Okay, so as I said, we'll get started. I'm going to pass the control over to Anton. Hi, Anton.
Hello there.
So I'll pass the control over to you, and then you'll be able to run through your presentation. On the right-hand side of the screen, everyone can see all of the participants. I think everyone can see the participants. No. I'm going to share it. You should be able to see it now.
Yep.
And there are options there. So if you have a question, you can click on the little hand symbol, and it will raise your hand. Anton will be able to see if someone has a question to ask. You can also ask questions in the little chat bubble. If you click on the chat bubble, you can type in a question there that Anton can either answer right away if he wants, or he can get to after the presentation. What I would ask everyone to do is to put their phones on mute and you can either do this through the mute button or you can press *6 to mute your phone. And then at the end of the session, or as you go through, depending on what Anton would like, we'll leave room for people to ask questions and to speak with Anton a little bit. So I think that's it. Anton, are you ready?
Good to go.
Perfect. Okay, so I'm going to make you the presenter. I'm going to mute my phone, and then it's all yours. Make presenter.
All right. Miigwech. Namanji dogish benisido tagwan Ojibwe. Maybe I should use English. I really appreciate you all taking time out of your busy days. I understand some of you are working in libraries, some of you may be in education, and I'm happy to be of service to you. Feel free to ask questions either verbally, unmute your phone and ask a question, or raise your hand. If you click on that chat bubble to the right, on the right-hand side of your screen, I can drop in web links as they come up as well. I put in one there for my faculty page, and I have a lot of links to good resources there. And then our website at Bemidii State University, we have a pretty good vetted list of links that might be of interest to you as we go through the presentation. All righty. First of all, I want to commend you for your important work and want to thank Andrea for the introduction there. Normally, doing a presentation like this, I'd have probably even more time and could do this just a little bit differently, but not knowing what the language levels are of everybody here, I guess one of the things I'd like to mention is that I think it's important for those of us who are trying to serve Native communities and Native people, and also those of us who are trying to connect the rest of the world to Native communities and Native people, just to be aware of some important issues with language and culture. The Ojibwe people are a large group of people with communities from Quebec across Canada to Saskatchewan. There are 125 Ojibwe communities, and then in the United States, quite a few as well, in Michigan, Wisconsin, Minnesota, North Dakota. And different parts of Ojibwe country have really different experiences with language fluency, with the amount of available printed material on tribal history, and all kinds of things. So this first slide here is just kind of me introducing myself, name, clan, and those sort of things. I think a lot of times we tend to separate the academic world from the community world, and as you're trying to build resources for people working, either in standalone libraries or for universities or other educational institutions, it's important to know the connection that a lot of Native people have to their home communities, culture, and ways, and to embrace that and try to make that accessible. I think the experience for most Americans and Canadians has been one of kind of disconnecting from motherland and mother language, and just how important those things are and how influential they are in shaping worldview is pretty significant. So this is a picture of Tom Stillday. And I work at Bemidii State University, and we have a few hundred Native students here. Every year we're bringing in a speaker for our big annual awards banquet, and I was pretty entertained. One year we brought in Tom Stillday, and I said, we've been bringing in all these academic people and sometimes politicians, but we should really bring in someone who has a PhD in the School of Life and can speak to the importance of our language and culture. So this guy was actually named chaplain for the Minnesota State Senate. He was the first person who was not of a Judeo-Christian background to have that position. And he broke every rule for a graduation banquet speech, which should be short with a couple decent jokes and focus on the students. And he spoke for about an hour and a half. He did it all in Ojibwe, not a single word of English. And then when he was all done, he said in English, "All you people who study Indians, study that." I was entertained by the comment, but I think there's an important point there, too, which is that a lot of times we forget that English is a foreign language, and that the indigenous languages of the United States and Canada are the native languages. And oftentimes we treat them in some marginalized way as if they're foreign languages. Usually the programs are housed in a Department of Foreign Languages and viewed that way. But for Native people, there's a very different perspective on that. So there's a lot of material to cover, and we have this PowerPoint that I'll be going through with you, but it'll also be available to you afterwards. Got it available in a PDF. We'll email to the group or anybody who wants it. And so a couple things I wanted to share in today's message is talking about why tribal language and culture revitalization is important. I wanted to point some resources to you. I understand a lot of you are interested in building up your resources, figuring out how you can be successful to meeting the needs of Native, Indigenous communities and people, but also the needs of the rest of the world to understand Native people. And it's kind of a travesty that in both the United States and Canada, there's kind of the way we educate people. A lot of times our young people learn more about the Roman Empire than the history of the place in which they live, and learn more about European farm animals and things you'd see on safari in Africa than they do about the animals in the woods around them. But that is what we do. And when it comes to Native issues, a lot of times it's a sugar-coated version of Christopher Columbus and in the United States, the first Thanksgiving, and not a lot else to really understand more deeply the first people of the land. And oftentimes the history lessons begin with the arrival of the first Europeans, totally ignoring the fact that there were many thousands of years of history before the most recent 500 years of history. So we'll talk about and show some resources to you so you can hopefully make those connections, and it'll help you with your work and your mission. And then some things that you can maybe do to contribute to this resources. So let's get rolling. A little bit of background. We are experiencing some really profound change in the language and culture landscape of the entire world. But in the United States and Canada, very pronounced impact on tribal languages. Some of this is the carryover effect of assimilation policies like the residential boarding school policy and era. Some of this is just the proliferation of mainstream media, even remote fly-in communities in Canada. As soon as there's electricity, there's a satellite dish, and it's broadcasting SpongeBob in English, and it has a pretty significant impact. This is also a worldwide phenomenon, so many Polynesian languages, Asian languages, Native American languages, South American languages, they're all experiencing a lot of pressure. And really, looking at the U.S. and Canada, we've got really about 4 languages that will definitely be here 100 years from now, and it's mainly because of the strength of some of the more isolated communities in Canada where there's still 100% of the population are speakers. So they include Inuit, they include Ojibwe and Cree, and in the U.S. side, Dene or Navajo. There are about 20 other tribal languages that are spoken by some children, but not all children, and the future vitality of languages like Hopi, for example, or some of the Pueblo languages, it's not certain, but it is possible depending on what is done to revitalize them now. So your work in libraries is not just one of creating access and being nice to everybody. It's one of accelerating, of catalyzing this transmission of vital information that can enable the retention of languages. Really important stuff. All right. So we have to ask a couple questions, including how much can a people change and still be the same people? This picture is of the same human being who received a makeover at one of the residential boarding schools. This was actually at Carlisle. And the first day of school, they cut off the hair, burn up medicine pouches, give a uniform, and the forced assimilation process begins. This has been an ongoing experience for all human beings. You'll never meet an elder of any culture who doesn't shake his or her head and and say kids these days. There's a tension about cultural change. You look at England, and I don't know how many of you have read Geoffrey Chaucer, but the way the English language was spoken 600 years ago is barely intelligible to an English speaker today. 1,000 years ago, nobody who speaks English would understand anybody in England and what they were saying to one another. So things change very quickly. Now, there are connections between, ancient Celts in England and citizens of England or the British Commonwealth, but are they the same people? And this is one of the tensions ongoing in Indian country, too, about how much change can take place before someone's kind of unrecognizable to their ancestors. And I would say that language and culture are intricately interwoven into the answers to that question. We've got all kinds of problems going on in Indian country. I won't belabor these because I'm sure you're all aware that these are some of the big issues. Physical health, highest rate of diabetes for any racial group in the world, issues of education. Your role working in libraries and in education is really critical. The gaps between those who have financial resources and those who don't are growing wider and wider and wider. And the correlation between those who have education and have financial resources is growing tighter and tighter and tighter. So to me, education work, the dissemination of information, the work going on even with your jobs in libraries is very much connected to broader human rights and equality issues. We have all kinds of stuff going on with substance abuse and economic opportunity, and it's pretty astounding that, I don't know, when the unemployment rate in the United States was sustained at 15%, they called it the Great Depression, and we had this massive public intervention to remedy it, and the unemployment rate for Native communities in Canada and in the United States has never been that low, even in communities that have big casino operations. So there is some really profound economic disparity that is oftentimes confused by stereotypes that Indians are all rich from casinos or something like that. And it's a complicated world out there. By the way, in the United States, the educational system is a little bit different, but about half of the Native kids in the U.S. are passing state-mandated tests in English and in math, and they teach those subjects to the exclusion of all others. The system in Canada is a little bit different, but there's still a big disparity between the success rates for Native kids and for the rest of the general population. In this environment, there was an Ojibwe language immersion school called Giboozhoo'ininim that was created in Hayward, Wisconsin. And probably the most significant and telling statistic is that for 14 years in a row, they've had a 100% pass rate in state-mandated tests in English, administered in English. And the oldest age cohort, the kids who've been in the school the longest, have had a 100% pass rate at the exceptional level. And they've sustained that for 14 years in a row, making that the highest performing school in English competency in the entire state of Wisconsin. That's pretty amazing. And we pay oftentimes a lot of attention to all the things that are broken and are not working. But if somebody's finding something that's working, maybe we should pay a little more attention to that. Somebody found something that's working, and of all the great ironies, it's an Ojibwe language immersion school where they teach all state-mandated curriculum. They just do it all in the tribal language. And it makes a profound impact, the access to resources. There are a lot of reasons behind this, and it's a little bit hard to understand. But imagine going to school, Canadians going to school, and learning all about the beauties of Arab culture, learning all about Arabic language, contributions to our understanding of the zero, innovations in mathematics, navigation, food, all kinds of stuff, but never anything about themselves. Well, for starters, in a place like Canada or the United States, that just wouldn't happen. But that is what it feels like going to school as a Native person, learning all about the great heroes of the world, not yours. all about the important achievements of human endeavor, not yours. And learning about how great everyone else is and never anything about yourself starts to eventually deliver the message that everyone else is great and you're not. And it generates a lot of disconnection, and a lot of people want to resist assimilation because of its ugly history in Indian communities. And sometimes resisting education is seen as a way to resist assimilation and to hang on, to try to stay recognizable to our ancestors. So there's, in many circles, a stigma that has gone with getting an education. And the more educated one is, the more one would be assumed to be assimilated. So one of the things that happens with language revitalization efforts is that people get to learn about themselves and the rest of the world. And that generates positive self-esteem and success at everything across the curriculum, both in the classroom and in the archives, in the libraries, and in all educational endeavors. There's an opportunity to do more of that. So again, really applaud and see the importance of your work. There's a lot going on in the identity discussion. A lot of things impact people's identity. Race is one of the things that impacts identity, but so is place, the language that one operates in, the customs, the things people do every day, economy, education, political systems, religion, lots of things impact identity. And sometimes it's just very different. For example, one of the communities near here is called Panema. It's one of the villages on the Red Lake Reservation. And you really know you're in a different place when you come there. For starters, people bury their dead in the front yard, and there are all these grave houses in everybody's front yard. Now, some people, from mainstream culture might look at that and go, ooh, weird. But I got to tell you, when you step out the door to your house and there's mom, dad, grandma, grandpa, going back generation upon generation, much older than America's been in existence, boy, that makes it hard to sell the family farm and move to California. But our non-native neighbors kind of celebrate the freedom we have to move to California and become a Californian. So there's a cultural difference. There's a connection to place that's really deep. And it's not the case that when there's a funeral, for example, that everybody goes, but somebody from every family goes, and they bring food, and they do that simply because they're part of the same community. So that connection to one another and connection to place is really profound. And there are a lot of things like that in Indian country that end up being really significant. Language carries a lot. By the way, a lot of these pictures of kids are some of my kids. I have 9 of them. I guess you could say I've been busy. So language embeds meaning and worldview, a way of looking at the world. And we could spend all our time just talking about how this happens. And I've got a bunch of words here. If we had more time, I'd probably go through a few more of these. But the third word on your list there, Giboozhoo'ininim, that actually means elder. And if you break down the word and what it really means, Gitchi is great, and Aya'a is a being or person. So Giboozhoo'ininim is like a great being. The word Mindamuye that we have for an elderly woman, it actually means one who holds things together, and it describes the role of the family matriarch in holding everybody in the family together. So there's a lot built in there. Now, in English, you've got words like old woman, elderly woman, aged woman, and no wonder everybody wants to get a facelift and a Botox injection and dye their hair, and nobody will admit how old they really are. There's a very distinct way that language shapes worldview, and there's a lot embedded in every tribe's language, and much more to say about that as well. So I think we can see connections in tribal language with knowledge of self and its impacts. I think all human beings have a profound need to belong and to be accepted, to know it's okay to be me. And to me, the lure of things like gangs is not really that people want to go out and be bad. It's that they want to know it's okay to be me and somebody has my back in our traditional ways, and with the knowledge systems that we have, there's a lot more there to generate healthy ways of being and belonging, and they have profound impacts at everything across the system and in a person's life. So there's a lot more to say there too, but in the interest of time, I'm going to keep rolling through this because I know a lot of you are really interested in resources to help you directly in the trenches. So a lot of times I talk to Native people about how do you rebuild roots, the things that you do in your community, and these are some of the things that I often share. The idea of reciprocity, of paying it forward, that's really the concept behind the use of tobacco. Being connected with, knowing who you are, Native names, clan, connection to home communities, traditional life ways. And we have a lot of really beautiful ceremonies. If we have a little time when we're done and people want to ask more questions about some of those ceremonies and how they are, I'm happy to take more questions there. There's a famous quote by Harding Carter, there are but two lasting bequests we can hope to give our children. The first of these is roots, the other wings. And to me, I think that's what a lot of our mission should be in educational work, including the work that you are doing, is providing opportunities for everybody to learn about themselves and to learn about the rest of the world. Here's another one. Nothing can stop an Indian who knows who he is. Happy to take questions on all the terminology debate as well. For myself, I tend to use most of those labels pretty interchangeably, aware of the shortcomings that just about all of them have. I think it's more important that we don't make everybody walk around on eggshells, too paralyzed to even ask a question. There's so much debate about it. It's really hard to find universal agreement. Language is important on the political front as well. Here's Red Lake Tribal Chairman Buck Jourdain, and he's talking to President Obama, who was saying, hey, if any nation wants to be recognized by the United Nations, these are the criteria. And he started with a living language, an identifiable culture, and a sovereign land base. Pretty significant statements. Here's a couple famous Canadians for you. Got a lot of ruffled feathers when this one came out, but there's an element of truth in here that and that's worth talking about too. And the statement was, if you no longer speak your language and no longer practice your culture, then you have no right to demand Aboriginal rights from us because you are assimilated with the ruling class. So language important in a lot of different ways. I'm going to kind of cook through this and start showing you guys a few resources. I imagine all of your libraries have some sort of internet and computer access. If not, I encourage you to get it because there's a lot of great stuff out here. This website here for the Ojibwe People's Dictionary, it's really, really useful. When you visit that particular website, there is such a wealth of information. The largest print dictionary for Ojibwe right now has about 10,000 or so entries, and the Ojibwe People's Dictionary has several times that already. I'm dropping the link into the chat window on your video screen there too, so if you want, you can either click on it to look at the website or save it and bookmark it for later use. But the nice part about this dictionary is they don't have to publish a new edition every so often. There's a team of people adding words to it every day. And when they add the words, there's a voice thread, so you can actually go to the word, you can click on the word, you can pick your dialect and pick a male or female speaker, then you can hear the word, you can hear example sentences that are using that particular word, you can see the roots in the word, and you can click on that and you can see other words that have the same roots, so you can explore morphology and so forth. It's really, really a phenomenal thing. Right now, there are several dialects that are represented. One of the issues with tribal language work is that, with 125 communities in Canada and many in the United States as well, there are many different dialects. But one of the nice things about this particular resource is that it can accommodate, multiple dialects. So there are speakers from different parts of Ontario, from Minnesota, from Wisconsin, and we're not picking one word to be the right word. We're saying all versions of the word are right. And over time, we'll have even wider dialect representation in this particular project. So it's really been a remarkable development. It's also interfaced with the Minnesota Historical Society. So if you, for example, look up bandolier bag, you'll also get links to all of the archival holdings of bandolier bags and historical information about bandolier bags, and it's all interconnected. So it's much more than a dictionary. It connects kind of in an encyclopedic way, but also for those who are doing library-based research, it can really help a researcher identify other tools and resources and broaden a search. It's pretty useful. There are lots and lots of new publications. When I'm getting a little bit older now, but when I entered the field of Ojibwe language work, there was one dictionary, no grammar books, and there were a couple of kind of ma and pa printing operations that had published, Mother Goose rhymes in Ojibwe or something like that. And now there are so many hundreds of books, I couldn't even begin to count them all. Young Reader Series, there's actually a press that's devoted exclusively to Ojibwe language publications and all kinds of stuff. So I'd encourage you to find out what's out there, get it into your libraries, and put it to use. There's some pretty cool stuff. There's, for the Awesiinyensag Native Journal, this is still the only major academic journal of the Ojibwe language. I will drop a link onto your chat window here for the journal as well. And it's really nice. It's got Ojibwe language texts that are translated into English. So it's got the Ojibwe on one side and the English on the other with a glossary of terms in the back. It's growing quite a bit, and they've been publishing audio with it. This also is available. I'm going to drop another link for the Awesiinyensag Native Journal into your chat window here. And this is for the back issue section. So with that link, you can actually order hard copies of all the back issues, but you can also direct people there, like if your budgets aren't sufficient to accommodate acquiring all of the back stock, you can actually show them the links to this site here, and when people go there, they can download a PDF of the back issues for free, and they can listen online to the audio material, which is available in multiple dialects. They can actually download MP3s of the audio files and then upload them into their iPods. They can do it all at your library and take them with and listen to Ojibwe elders all day long. So again, your library can be a resource portal for connecting vital information with people. And a lot of times, the things that people who are interested in learning about the language complain about is, well, I don't have any fluent speakers in my house, or I live in an urban area and there aren't that many speakers around me, or the speakers I see don't use the language, so I don't get a chance to hear it enough. Well, here's a way to provide, hundreds of hours of Ojibwe speakers for free that they can actually put right into their own mobile devices or listen to in your library if they don't have a mobile device. And again, another really useful resource. Yeah, so this is just the website for the journal. There's a really interesting, I don't know what happened to that particular slide, but yeah, there's a really interesting development here in Bemidii. I don't know how many of you know the geography around here, but the community here is right in between the three largest reservations in the state of Minnesota. And I suppose about 30% of the town is native, but probably half of the shopping population is native. And for a long time, there are all kinds of issues and racial tensions and whatnot. But there was a non-native guy here named Michael Mewers who said, when people go to Hawaii everybody knows what aloha means. And people who've never even been to Hawaii know what aloha means. When people come to an important part of Ojibwe country, well, they should all know what Giboozhoo'ininim and miigwech mean. And he started a campaign for bilingual signage around town. And it, believe it or not, it took right off. So now the university, the hospital, the public school system all have bathroom signs up in Ojibwe and English, welcome signs in Ojibwe and English. The university here has been busy developing resource materials, so I just dropped another link on your chat window there. And at the bottom of that web page is some free posters that have common terminology, and then there's some talking flashcards, and those are also available for free. So a lot of times people see words, and that's just not enough. They need to know how to pronounce it. So the audio interface with the free talking flashcards has been pretty useful and popular. And with your with your own facilities, it's really worth thinking about doing a bilingual signage effort. It doesn't fix all the big issues, but what it does do is it says immediate validation. You are welcome here. We see you. We acknowledge you. We validate you. We validate the importance of your language. And for, oftentimes no money, just printing something off from a vetted resource like the ones we are sharing with you here, then you can say you're welcome in a way that saying it in a foreign language like English just doesn't portray. And so I'd encourage you to really think about that. Also, I think, in the town of Bemidii, a lot of the businesses were looking for ways to safely reach out to the Native community, and were really worried that they would offend somebody, say something wrong, write something wrong, do it wrong. And so this was a way to, get the Native community engaging directly with those businesses, a way for them to open the door without having to worry about hurting anyone's feelings or offending them or whatever. And for the Native people, it was a way to feel welcomed rather than marginalized, and very useful. A lot of times I've done teacher training programs for schools, and we'll get up and take a walk around the school, and I'll say, look, this happened in Cass Lake, for example. 90% of the kids in that school were Native kids. I said, look, there isn't even artwork on the wall that testifies to the existence of our race. Maybe a little makeover is in order. And this is a really cheap and painless way to start providing some of that guidance. So I encourage you to think about it, and there's lots of free resources for you. This is just the website that I dropped into the chat window here. Help you find some of that information. Excuse me. I made it all winter long without getting a cold, and here we go. Alrighty, so there are lots of other books and resources, and I'll share a few of these with you in the time that we have, and then I'll make sure we have time for questions and show you a few more things on big picture stuff with your acquisitions and work. So there's an ongoing effort to revitalize the Ojibwe language. And I would say that the future vitality of Ojibwe is not certain, but it is possible. And there are a lot of people who care very much about it and are trying hard to develop it. Some of what is going on right now is language change. And by change, I don't mean changing the words or how they're said or how they're understood. I mean, the Ojibwe language was, for thousands of years, an oral language. It was passed down through listening and speaking only, not through writing. And there's been a very conscious effort on the part of lots of first speakers and lots of language teachers to write it down. What we're doing is trying to preserve the language and develop a literary tradition for this formerly oral language. Not everybody is 100% happy with it, but most people really end up embracing it. And I'll share a couple stories with you on some of these projects that will give you an idea of how that's going. So here's one of the issues. I was talking to people working in some of the immersion schools. I do a lot of work with them. And I said, all right, I know there's about 1,000 things you need, and you need it yesterday, but if you could name a couple of your most important things, what would they be? And so some of them were saying, well, I need some terminology because we have to start teaching about water tension levels in the 2nd grade, the life cycle of an insect. We have to start, teaching about condensation, all kinds of stuff. And, complex governmental terminology, bylaws, different terms like that. So I need some help with some of the terminology for algebraic formulas and whatnot. And then some of the other people were saying, hey, look, we're taping over other people's books with Ojibwe words so that we can read some, Mother Goose rhymes to the kids. But the problem is we're trying to fit Ojibwe language words into English sentence structure or thoughts. We're studying European farm animals. We need our own literature. And so we started working on vocabulary and young reader books. And all the stars kind of aligned with this. I was talking to some people at the Minnesota Humanities Center, and they said, hey, we want your help to vet a new grant program. And I said, oh, forget your grant program. You should spend all the money on an Ojibwe language vocabulary project and on a young reader series for Ojibwe. And this never happens. They said yes. And so we had a smaller pot of money. It was maybe about $60,000, and we were able to have a number of working sessions, pulled in elders from between 7 and 9 different dialects to work together, kind of like our Jedi masters of the Ojibwe language, and put them to work. And initially we had to have some interesting conversations. For example, the publication team for this book included Eugene Stillday, who's from the community of Panema that I was just mentioning before on the Red Lake Reservation. And he said, you know what? I don't even know what algebra means. I don't know what it means in English. I don't know what it means in Ojibwe. I don't care. Teach our kids about who we are. That's what matters the most. And I had this really interesting conversation. So I responded. I said, Eugene, I'm of the same heart as you. I want to teach our kids who we are and what matters most. But if we're going to take money from the state or federal government, then they are going to expect us to work within the parameters of the curricular guidelines. And our kids live in a world where we want them to be able to make money not just in an Ojibwe language environment, but in all environments. So think about it like this. Across the ocean in China, there's this really big country with a very large population. They're all learning algebra, and they are all very Chinese because they're doing it in Chinese. And they can conduct their business in Chinese, and that doesn't make them Europeans. We also can run our governments and run our businesses and run our schools, and we can do it in our language and be just as effective, just as integrated into the global economy without surrendering our identity or our language. It's not necessary. It's not an either or. But to do that, we need your help to get these terms available in Ojibwe so we don't have to borrow English to talk about them. So he thought for a minute and he said, okay, I'll help you. But it was a really important conversation, and once we got rolling, we really got rolling. And at first, it was a little bit clunky, but what really helped is we put up some pictures like this. If we wanted to target terminology like soil percolation and evaporation and condensation, if you said words like that to a first speaker of Ojibwe, oftentimes they'd say, I don't know what you just said. But showing them a picture was a totally different thing. Amazingly, there are about 12 different words in Ojibwe for condensation. So whether it's dew condensing on grass or moisture condensing on glass, those are actually different words. Condensing in the air is a different word. And so once they got rolling, it was pretty cool. They kind of cross-pollinated. So someone like Maji Gwineash, Gordon Jourdain, who is from Lac La Croix, he was raised by monolingual Ojibwe speakers, in fact learned how to be a carpenter all in Ojibwe. So he had a lot of words for angle, pitch, square footage, and so forth that might have been less commonly known by some of the other speakers. But as soon as they heard him talking, they'd say, oh, yeah, that's how they say it over there. Where I'm from, we say this. And we would start writing up the words, and we'd have multiple entries. If there were different words in different dialects, we would document that, and we just put the initials of the speaker behind each word. So the book itself, unbelievably, in about 3 days, they cranked out the guts of these word lists. It was probably about, I don't know, a little over 100 pages worth of terminology. So they were just a juggernaut. We did lots of editing, and it was really nice because the first speakers kind of got to work together, cross-pollinate, didn't have to fight one another. They actually got to work cooperatively, even though they're from different dialects. Second language learners who are helping with the write-up were really empowered and challenged. We're able to target key curricular areas, and it got the academic people and the grant people and the elders all working together for common purpose with great effect. And there have been lots of other, that got extreme zoom with the conversion here, but this book too was another vocabulary project coming out of the same movement called Awesiinyensag, and this one was to target traditional vocabulary. So for example, one elder just picked up a conibear trap, and she started going through terminology for tensioner, spring, clasp, all these different parts of a trap, and there are actually about 20 different parts on a trap. And then a lot of travel words like traveling by water, windbound, snowbound, a lot of terminology maybe less commonly used in some parts of Ojibwe country. So we were trying to document and preserve that. So really a lot of vocabulary projects. And then we've been working on the young reader stories too, and that was really a lot of fun. We had, and by the way, all of these books are available. If you look in your chat window, the very first link up there is for my faculty page, and these projects are all listed there. And then if you look at the next link that's offered, which is the Ojibwe language resources on the Bemidii state site, there are links to all of the things that are not my direct publications on there as well. But in any event, we had this idea, this is coming out of that same initial conversation and grant program for the Young Reader series. For this project, we again pulled together about a dozen, between 9 and 12 speakers, depending on the book. And I thought it would be like, the making of Lion King or something like that. We have so many talented artists in the Native communities in the U.S. and Canada. I said, we'll put the artists in the room with the elders, we'll get them speaking stories, and this is really going to be a lot of fun. And at first, people looked at me like I was crazy again. I think they were comfortable talking about things they had or felt like they had authority to speak about, what it was like when I was a kid, or Giboozhoo stories or something like that. And to get them to create it took a little longer. So, for example, Nancy Jones, who's from the Red Gut First Nation, Giboozhoo'ininim in Ontario, I said, okay, well, what was it like when you were a kid? And she said, when I was a kid, work. I got sent to my grandma's house. She'd make me work all day long, haul the water, haul the firewood, clean the floor. Then I'd get sent to my other grandma's house. Same thing. And every time any one of them was done with me, they'd touch their head. And then they'd touch my head, and they'd say, Awesiinyensag. And that means, like, I'm giving you a white hair. So it was a saying. It was a way of saying, well, you get to be an elder someday, too. You're going to earn it one gray hair at a time. But it was also a way of saying you're getting wiser for growing up and doing work, and those kind of things. So in any ways, so we said, well, let's make a story. So we picked this cast of characters, kind of like Franklin or Little Bear, if you've seen the cartoons on TV. But we picked animals that represented common clans in Ojibwe country. And then we put them in kind of human situations. So, wearing clothes, going to powwows, learning about sharing and that kind of stuff. So we said, let's take this character, Miigwech, the little eagle. And maybe he's, kind of in his own land. And so then Nancy's like, yeah, like listening to his iPod and chewing his cornflakes. And I said, of course. And then what happens? She goes, send him to Grandma's house. So he goes to Grandma's house, and then what does he do? You know, it's clean the floor, haul the firewood, all these different things. When she's done, Giboozhoo'ininim. Of course, now he's a bird, so instead of a white hair, it's like a little white feather. You know, when he gets all done, he's complaining to Mom, and she says, take a look in the mirror, and his head looks just a little bit whiter. And it takes an eagle 7 years to get a white head. You know, so, okay, great. There's a little story, and it's culturally based. Animals from our area that reinforce important cultural concepts, and it's an indigenous thought and story. It's in Ojibwe language, but it's modern and relatable and kind of humorous for the kids. So we've got our 4th book in that series coming out in the next month or so, and it'll keep coming. This is actually published by Birch Bark Books, and the links are already provided for you there. And they are a new Ojibwe language publishing house based out of Minneapolis, and I think we're going to be seeing a lot more things from them. This is another good one. If you are interested more in what's going on in Ojibwe country around tribal language revitalization, this film is really useful. It's pretty easy to get a hold of, too. And they have, here's a link for it. And you can actually watch it online for free as well. So it profiles the tribal language immersion schools, and it also shows you that traditional community of Panema, some of the academic work going on, give you a better sense for some of the work going on with tribal language revitalization. And there's really quite a bit of information in that one film, and another good one to have in your library, or at least to have bookmarked for people who come in and are asking about it. There's so many other resources. I'll blaze through a few of these. Here's one of my earliest books, Living Our Language. This is just an anthology of bilingual stories, so it's Ojibwe on one side, English on the other, and a glossary in the back, profiling 10 elders from Wisconsin, Minnesota, and Ontario. So they're pretty useful, multiple dialects, and that one's published by the Minnesota Historical Society Press. They've done a number of my books. This one, too, might be of interest or use. It's maybe a little deceptive to say Ojibwe in Minnesota because this really does apply across the entire region for most of it. But it covers some of the things, big picture things we were talking about, the connections between language and identity and sovereignty. But it's also a really good starting point for people who want to know a little more. It's astounding how people who've lived right in the heart of Ojibwe country most of their lives oftentimes don't know even the most basic things about the geography, history, Bering Strait theory, whatever. And so this is a good starting point there. The Assassination of Hole in the Day is a major historical piece. This one actually has uses oral history and archival research to provide a deeper perspective for people on how to do history. And, of course, the story is a real-life 19th century murder mystery, and you can use that murder mystery as a window into how the nature of tribal leadership changed and how the land went from native to non-native hands. So lots and lots of stuff. We oftentimes have questions from people about copyrights, royalties, finding publishers. If you're interested in any of that, let me know. And I often tell Native people, too, we need to think critically about what we're doing. Oftentimes we can be agents of our own cultural change, and we need to advocate carefully and invite and build bridges with everybody else that can be allies. So I encourage people to take initiative, no matter what your position is. And if you work for a tribe or a museum or a library or community, then you have an obligation. And I'd say that truth and reconciliation really does start with truth. By the way, this particular image is from the Great Territorial Seal for Wisconsin. Initially, Minnesota and Wisconsin were one territory. A little hard to see here, but there's a picture of an Indian heading off west. There's a steamship here. If you know the story of the Ho-Chunk Indians from Wisconsin, they endured 9 separate relocation orders, the last of which they were loaded onto steamships, sent down the Mississippi and up the Missouri River to Nebraska. There's a white farmer here industriously plowing the land, state house looming in the background. There's a caption here in Latin, civilization succeeds barbarism. Kind of disturbing that sometimes the darkest chapters of our history are not just sugar-coated, but sometimes they're actually celebrated. This is the great seal for the state of Minnesota today, and it is drawn from this territorial seal. No steamship, but the Indians riding west into the setting sun. There's a white farmer industriously plowing the land with kind of a wary eye on the Indian. There's a stump here with an axe and a gun. I guess to me, symbols of deforestation and physical violence over the land. The captions in French, L'Étoile du Nord, the Star of the North. And so I think we need to take responsibility. Here's a picture of Michael Mewers, who led the bilingual signage effort. Some pictures from our hospital here. A lot of things that we can do, and a lot of programs that can work. I want to make sure I've got time for a couple questions for you guys. I encourage you to get informed about your resources. There's a lot more material out there than you could possibly imagine. Find out what's out there. Get copies of the stuff for your library. Bookmark the stuff that's electronic. You don't need to reinvent the wheel. And if you make a commitment and hunt it down, it's all out there. I really like this quote by Margaret Mead, too. Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has. Questions? Concerns, criticisms, complaints? If you want, my email address is in my profile on this, and I can drop it into your chat window there. I'm happy to mail you information on some of our publications. You can either email me with your mailing address, and I'll send you some of these, or if you want, you can let me know through some other venue. This book, too, is another good one for getting people started. Everything you wanted to know about Indians but were afraid to ask. I've been kind of accumulating questions. There are over 100 of them in this particular book, and it's been an amazingly popular one for helping people understand everything from terminology debates to what are tribal governments and how are they different, and the cultural landscape that Native people are in, and best ways to navigate all of that. So let me know how I can best be of service to you. Questions? My email address in here too. Yep, and feel free to shoot me questions by email. I don't see any hands up. Yeah, well, it's been a pleasure. I hope it's of use to you and your important work, and that you carry it on.
I don't have any questions myself right now, Anton. It's Andrea.
Yeah.
But I did find this information. Some of the sites that you mentioned I have used consistently in the past. But I was actually glad to see you referencing them yourself, because then that way I know that they're legitimate.
Yeah.
But also a lot of new ones that I think not only will be helpful to myself in my work and in my personal life, but also to a lot of the librarians. Every year in the spring, we have a gathering with our First Nation librarians, and last year we had a local language teacher come in and offer a lesson. And we then discussed different resources that some of our librarians use in their language within the libraries, and I think that a lot of these ones were new and add to that list. So I'll be anxious to share it with the rest of our clients.
Yeah, that'll be great. It's kind of people get siloed really easily because they're just not as interested in working with somebody else's dialect, or just aren't aware of stuff going on in other places. But when you find out how you can kind of cross-pollinate with other dialects without giving up on your own, then it's just such an eye-opener for a lot of Native people. And the more resources, the better.
Absolutely.
And there's a lot of work going on.
Yeah. And we have a lot of clients as well who are not just Ojibwe, but we have a lot of Cree and Ojibwe clients as well. But that sometimes impedes us from offering sessions and stuff because we're not really sure how to go about things.
Oh yeah.
When we're working with different languages, but this is definitely great access to resources for our clients.
Good.
Do I have any participants with questions? Nothing. I think they're all on mute.
Okay.
I know that I had. Oh, hello? No. I know that I had one of the participants wasn't able to see any of the links that you were adding.
Oh.
But that's okay because I have them all, and I'll make sure that I send them out, not to just today's participants, but to all of our clients as well.
Okay.
And they'll be added as links with your PowerPoint when I send that out.
Okay. Sounds great.
So if there are no other questions, I'd like to thank you very much for speaking with us today, Anton. This has been eye-opening and very educational for myself, and I think it's a great resource for our clients again, and I really appreciate the time that you've taken to prepare this for us.
Yeah, my pleasure.
All right. If there's any follow-up, like Anton said, just contact him, or you can contact myself, and we'll do what we can to answer any questions or inquiries.
Sounds good.
Have a great day, everyone.
You too.